All right, here we go into game two, taking a look at the draft. Senna being banned out this time around, unsurprisingly, considering it ended that game with over 120 stacks. Maokai also joining, Oriana, Draven, Callista, and Viego. Again, a nod to Hans Sama. Leaving Xayah open, and this has not been something that has worked out well for people. She went through the first 2 weeks in the tournament with something like 27-7, like a 78% win rate, something like that. Just absolutely absurd, because the problem is when you take Xayah, you end up being forced to take Rakan, and then you don't have access to all of the power picks. You have to take Rakan to take it away, and then that means you only get one of either Jarvan or Rumble or Poppy or Oriana, whatever happens to be here. In this case, though, G2 inexplicably leaves Rumble. All right, Jarvan gets taken, and Rumble would be so insanely strong here. Well, I have no idea why they don't go for Rumble here, because even with Poppy available, you could even go Rumble Poppy and be okay, and then leave mid laners available, be happy with Azir. You could even let them have Azir and then play for counter picks and try to play like Akali's, or you can play the other control mages, Talias and Victors, whatever you want into the Azir. You're going to be okay. Your synergy might not be as strong as Poppy Azir is, for example, but it means that you're taking Rumble, and Rumble is probably the single strongest champion in the entire tournament. All right, so every single draft plan has to revolve around what is going to happen with Rumble in these games. He hasn't even been played to his highest. We've seen some errant, like completely random equalizers, and yet he is still winning at an insanely high clip. So we'll see whether or not they get punched in the mouth for this, or burned, as it were, if they get burned. Second half of the draft, we see Cassante Jax pinching the top pool, right? They want to get the best possible situation for Rumble. G2 answers with Ornn, and again, like, Rumble's really strong into tanks, right? This isn't the old Rumble that could kind of be resisted out. No, this Rumble's going to burn through you and get stronger and stronger as the game goes on. Also, very easy to build a demonic embrace and not feel any amount of threat here. Red 4 pick, Talia, moving into Nautilus Ornn, and then being answered with Sivir. Sivir giving you the ult synergy, right? When you go and say, I'm going to dive in right now, right? She's going to make the wall. I'm going to press my R. We're all going to go forward. We're going to dive in to go with Rakan, or we can use it to disengage and say, hey, we missed our chance. We might have Rakan disengaging. Jarvan can put terrain on the ground and then EQ out. So you can have this modal response. That said, Sivir has been a tier below the other carries in the format. Would have preferred to see Ashe here from NRG, and to play that lane very aggressively into this Xayah. You can win that single target damage bout fairly easily. But anyways, we have Sivir. Let's check out the game, see how it goes. I want to see proactive plays from the Weaver wall, and I want to see some proactive shuffle and slams into the walls here from G2. All right, sliding on to the Rift, game 2. If G2 does not win this game, it's not the end of the world. They'll be dropping into the 2-2 bracket, and they will be playing Do or Die series tomorrow. Sunday will be the winners of the 1-2 bracket, and the losers from the 2-1 bracket will be facing against each other. 3 and 3, they'll be paired up against each other to match off to see who makes it in to the knockout stages. All right, exploitative start right here. 4 people being used to try to set a trap. Mickey presenting like he's just in a fan-out position, but NRG opting to also just be in a fan-out means that this will turn into nothing for themselves. They did actually, to create this trap, they've given up a lot of vision here. So there's a chance that they might consider this to be a weak side just de facto. And we'll see whether or not there's any exploits available to them. Now, Nautilus actually moving over. Are we going to get something really innovative to start? No. Looks like he just passed over in case there was a ward here. You're just doing a little shimmy, doing this. In case there's a ward, you ask the question, hey, do you guys know what I'm doing? Did you see this? Do you know what I'm planning on doing? I'm actually just coming back to my lane. But again, we talk about it all the time. Asking questions. Tempo is, if I'm going to put it in the abstract, it's asking questions to your opponent and seeing if they come up with answers. When you have tempo, when you have priority, and you leave, or you cross vision, or you go into fog, you're constantly asking your opponent, what is my intention? What is it that I'm actually trying to do here? And every time that you can ask a question to your opponent, you're taking some of their focus and you're saying, hey, can you actually come up with the right answer here? And sometimes questions are easy to answer. Sometimes they're not so easy, right? And that's where something like Nico gets a lot of value. A lot of people talk about the, hidden minion. It's like, oh, it's so easy. Well, if you're constantly forcing them to count minions every single wave or step back as every wave approaches, then you gain advantage. Like, congratulations, you found the Nico, but that doesn't mean that I haven't gotten lots of extra value off you. Anyways, we'll go into the game. Ornn actually getting some very favorable trades off right here. Surprised to see this first strike from Rumble. Normally we see Comet, perhaps suggesting that cannot or doesn't feel confident getting any sort of meaningful HP lead in this matchup, just wants to start farming up with the first strike. The first strike with the equalizer will be very nice as we get into the end game, and especially when we talked about how these ultimate buttons will synergize together. All 5 of these champions can press go at the same time, and first strike can be one of the best runes in the game for that sort of situation. A couple other interactions. We already talked about the shuffle into the slam for Poppy. This is one. We have the Cataclysm that can be bopped down by the Ornn. We also have Nautilus that can attach himself to the different forms of terrain that we have on the map. So a lot of neat interactions. We'll see how those play out. Largely what I expect to see is Talia splitting the map, Jarvan putting a Cataclysm down, and then the Rumble Equalizer being drawn along that border, trying to split up the fight, make the enemy team decide, are you going forward or are you going to go backwards? Either case, it's going to be difficult. Talia got a really bad rap in the first week of the games, going something like 2-13, but largely it came down to just indecisive ultimate play. Oh man, Dokla sees something is up here. The fact that Broken Blade is actually fighting back against this wave is very bizarre, right? That is a huge negative wave. Normally you don't want to be trading into that, and you'd like to let it come back, draw that line of scrimmage here, and make it very easy for Poppy to path around. Broken Blade actually fighting a little bit kind of tips the intent right there, saying, hey, I'm trying to get a little chip damage, make it so we can actually go for this all in later. And then Poppy leaves. That feels like a mistake. All right, so now you've chipped the Rumble. You had all the position. Rumble has actually invested 2 different wards to try to protect himself. Would have preferred to see Poppy circle back around, right? Just take this, leave and come back. Leave through vision and immediately come back. Instead, it doesn't do it. We see the phase rush can be used for Poppy to reposition themselves into fights. Very easy to get that early bop off because you just run in, you cast your E, Q and auto, right? Basically all those together are going to give you that phase rush. Lets you reposition yourself or maybe get a proactive play. Hold on. Dokla barely surviving there. Perhaps just calculated. But yeah, with Poppy, like I'd like to see, especially if they had Hex Flash, which I'm not positive that they have, but they could with that phase rush. They could easily have Nimbus Cloak. You pass through and you just come back around, right? This lane is stuck on this line of scrimmage, and Ornn is actually fighting tooth and nail to keep this here, right? Using biscuits and everything to just hold this line of scrimmage and say, hey, I'm going to keep this in a tough position. Where's my Poppy at? By the time Poppy actually comes back, it's out of mana, right? So now you're going to be forced where you're going to let these tuck back in. You're going to wait for them to re-aggro. It is a cannon wave, and so you should look to try to go for recall and teleport back into lane. Dokla realizing it, this is fantastic play, realizing that right now it's do or die. I just need to get this wave dead. Uses the equalizer to clear it all the way. There is no holding it versus the equalizer, or you could, but you take a tremendous amount of damage to do so. Ornn lets it get under turret. We'll start his recall and we'll come back to lane. So Rumble using equalizer number 1 for tempo to get a really good back off for himself means that he does not even have to use teleport. That'll be a big deal because equalizer number 2, we're talking about at 10 minutes. The teleport will still be available. That'll be a play that they might create something with like a ward right here, for example, come in behind bot lane and try to get a 2-for-0 kill. Or you can do it around the timing for Rift Herald. By keeping this teleport number 1, this opens the door for our favorite play, where we just have jungler coming, helping with pushes in 3 different lanes. Top laner goes, resets to bottom. You have equalizer available on Rumble, plus you have teleport, which means that there is no good answer against you, right? If they try to crash a wave against you, you equalize it. If they try to make a fight at the Eye of the Herald, you can teleport and you can force it. If they just stick 2 versus 1, you're happy because you're stronger everywhere else. So it's very hard to answer that play if it's done correctly. Basically starts right around now, getting these pushes. It looks like we're going to get a teleport into the first equalizer. The fight is split. Mickey's going to split up with the rest of the team. And Ornn, you see answering with his own ultimate to push the wave. He's going to try to get the maximum amount of plates here. But basically, we're going to trade 1 wave and 2 plates for a dragon and a teleport, right? So, good answer by Broken Blade. The fact that G2 was able to get out unscathed. They lost 1 flash, used an ultimate, and they lost dragon, but they gained themselves some plates. Not bad. Ornn actually only able to get the 1 plate early enough in the game. It means Rumble is going to say #worth. Now, the ocean for the early laning phase means Taliyah is going to have a little bit of help. This is something that Taliyah can have a weakness with. I do expect Jarvan to pass this second blue here to the Taliyah so she can push. These matchups of long-range control mages get swung entirely by who has blue buff. A lot of people like to not pass it anymore because of the candy system, but honestly, anytime you can skip a camp or pass a camp anyways, the candy's going to tick up. It's not going to change how quickly you get your smite by that much, right? We're talking 20 seconds later into the game, but giving your laner a blue buff can completely change the dynamic of how they are able to perform in the game. All right, Jarvan making first move over to Herald. We see that Rakan and Sivir are rotating over. Love this proactive play. We actually just denied Caps' E-dash right there. Now, Ignar is going to try to take the minimum amount back. You see how they push this and they rotate someone with teleport to the bottom lane. And not just anyone, but they do it with Taliyah. Means that they have the best access for jumping into this fight. However, for some reason, they're incapable of holding that pressure. Rakan and Sivir spending a little bit of extra time here. And Rumble moving over, but Rumble leaving to deal with the push. Poppy ults away the Jarvan means that they actually lose all their pressure. That's going to feel bad for NRG. Very well done by G2 to get that for themselves, using Poppy's kit to the fullest. But NRG is going to slap themselves for that mistake. Was not something that they had to give up. But moving back, they'll say, all right, we'll recollect ourselves. We'll see whether or not we see Taliyah rotate back over to the mid. It looks like she will. Taking the greedy approach for a moment there. Doesn't get punished. Gets to move back over. New control wards being laid here by the Nautilus. We see this big teleport ward tucked in behind. This will be coming online for Taliyah in 18 seconds. We'll see whether or not we have some bot lane dive pressure. Taliyah can maybe dive to this wall, create a wall behind. We might get 4 people stepping forward into that play. Ignar with some big chunk damage here. Oh, some missed. No, it's not even missed. Okay. You're in, you're out. That's fine. Contract's realizing that his teammate is calling out, which means he just goes very, very quickly, or in flash out, not even waiting a frame to get the rest of that. Now G2, Yike actually burning his flash as well. Contract's winning the Scuttle Crab. This is going to feel kind of bad for G2. They should have felt a little bit stronger there with Sivir tucked into the bot lane. Now with threats off the map, you expect Nautilus to go back into the jungle. You have a little bit of extra time to push this wave. Sivir does it better than anybody else, even better than Xayah. The biggest thing I'm thankful for with Static Shift nerf is that we're never going to see any Static Shift Sivirs. Hopefully you guys knew about this. If you watched the channel, then I know that you were prepared, but Static Shiv on Sivir was just a huge punt. It's a champion. Any champion that already has a strength in wave clear should never be building Static Shiv. Just never, right? In fact, buying extra stats and specifically lethality will do more with those AoE abilities than Static Shiv would even do. So now that is absolutely true. I hope to see 0 more Static Shiv Tristanas and Sivers, Caitlyn's. You just don't need it. You're much better off buying something like a Collector and then using the extra crit and lethality into your scaling rather than burning it all into a 200 damage poke. Now, Sivir will always have the prio here. Let's see. We got the first aggressive play from Poppy. Reposition. Oh, nice. Turning right before getting knocked up. Well done by Dokla. That is something that is very difficult to do, but on Rumble, very important. You want to make the Flame Spitter always turn as you're being stunned, right? Any form of CC, anything that's holding you down, you realize it's going to hit. With most champions, what you want to do is buffer a spell, right? Like Caitlyn, you have a cast time on your Q. So if you know you're going to be stunned, all right, I'll line up my Q. You stun me, that's okay. My shot still goes off. It's almost like I lost 0 frames because your stun didn't count. It was the same amount of time as my Q cast would have been anyways. For Rumble, it's slightly different. It's just the ability to turn around. Most of these guys are using spacebar, all right? Spacebar to hold down, keeping the map centered upon themselves. That way, micro clicks in this range, like literally this small, less than a centimeter in any direction, is enough to be able to jitter, to change direction, to dodge, do whatever you need to do, and get out. And that's how you can, in a moment, right, just react in that moment. The second that they're hitting you with a spell, you turn as the Rumble. All you need to do is you're walking here. You can even hold spacebar and hold your right click right here. And you don't even need to do anything. Right from here, you just wait, boom, and then it's one click on the other side and you're changing directions. So that's how quickly you can answer. That's how you can be a master at dodging. That's how you can do advanced things like turn your Rumble Flame Spitter into the face of the CC. Dokla has been playing absolutely phenomenally in this tournament so far. Palafox was maybe the best player for NRG in the split. But Dokla's been playing at another level entirely right now in this tournament. FBI biting the dust. Now, FBI, this is normally the knock on him is that he's never going to carry games, and sometimes he gives up a little bit, but more times than not, it's just a very steady presence for your team. He's just doing his job, positioning himself well. Now, speaking of positioning, looking at the fights that we're going to have, obviously we talked about some of the synergies. We're having long range engage here. We're going to try to have scoop and push into the wall. We might have Nautilus using his ultimate to start a shadow to force enemy maneuvers. Hold on. Good dodge there by Caps. Going to feel pretty weak right now that many spells have been used. Ornn's feeling very strong. He gets a knock up in response. Make sure that Ornn cannot get R2 off, which means that they're going to isolate him. But this is an Ornn, guys. He's not going to take all this damage. This is going to come down to execution. Ignar dashing around. Beautiful EQ flash to get onto Azir. The biggest source of damage in the game right now. Him being gone is a monstrous deal for this fight. FBI also even showing up. Might even look to throw... No, there is no ultimate available. But the AoE damage is going to sting. And NRG survives. Barely in that fight. So yeah, looking at positions, right, we talked about the formations, what we're going to try to get. A lot of front to back, disengage from here. We have engage from here. So Xayah can play modal. She can play forward or backwards. Azir can also play forward or backwards. Poppy can play forward or backwards. And Ornn can sort, you see what happens right now when you try to re-engage versus a team that has a lot of CC. There's a chance that they're able to knock you out of R2. But I like the amount of combinations that G2 can use. But most of it comes in a line, right? And when we're talking about the different angles, specifically Rumble, right? Jarvan giving the shape of the Cataclysm. The fact that Equalizer can come and split a team and fight in half. The fact that a Weaver's Wall could come this way. You might have a Cataclysm in the middle and Sivir damage is just bouncing all over the place. We could easily have a situation where it's very hard for G2 to put their synergies in place because there's so much extra terrain going down, and Rumble is essentially creating terrain every time that he puts the Equalizer out. So G2, that being said, needs to play together. They need to make sure that they're never being split by the Weaver's Wall. They need to play proactively. They need to play for vision because they have very high pick potential, right? Q into auto, into E, into knockback, plus a brittle stun, right? Like whatever combination you can play for many different picks. Plus you have ult to lead you off. You can go long range. You can go Ornn ult into Azir, scoop into your team. And then Poppy to put up the shield to make sure that there's no dashes in response. Now Poppy being exceptionally strong into Rakan as well, right? One of those other benefits when you get Xayah in blue 1 and you say you're forcing them to take this on red 1. And if that opens up the door for you here to take a blue 2 right here, and like they said, blue 3, the only problem is this synergy I don't think is worth giving up this Rumble. Rumble is providing too much threat in this game. I would have preferred to see the Rumble pick up try to shop next on Azir. But this is an interesting, posited question by NRG. What we asked last week when we did the meta rundown. What is going to be the shape of a draft that allows you to give up Xayah and Rakan in the draft, right? What allows you to put them both in? Is this it? Is this the one where you say, okay, we'll let you take Xayah and we'll take Rakan, and then we'll ask you which of these champions, by leaving up several OPs, you say, all right, we'll make sure that we get 3 and you only get 2. You can have Xayah, but we'll have extra OPs. Is there going to be a situation where you actually can leave Rakan up and you just say, heck, we'll just take these 2, make you take Rakan and like Poppy, and then we'll just go grab Azir and say, hey, we're feeling really good right now. All right, let's take a look at the fight. Big formation. Hans Sama trying to peel himself, does go way out of the fight, is able to draw the feathers back, get massive amounts of damage, but you see Contracts right in the middle of this fight, feeling really strong. Dokla also going forward, but a very nice Zhonya's. They should bite the dust here. Azir is going to feel very, very strong. Oh, we got a knock-up. That is going to change everything. The fact that Azir dies means that NRG is going to be big in the rest of this fight. They're able to hunt it down. Beautiful knock-up by Talia, but Caps is going to be kicking himself. Love this sign. FBI, open up. All right, look at the formations. Rumble, beautiful flanking position. Talia shutting off. This is what we were talking about, asking tough questions. Ornn trying to put the hole in the wall, but that means that your E is on cooldown, and it means that your whole team is funneling into one choke. It also means that Ornn gives up his sentry position, right? You need to be able to hold that line as a sentry, as a tank. You need to be able to jump out in front. The fact that we got this knock-up means that we have beautiful turnaround Contracts right on cue. Beautiful spell from Palafox. He's just using this terrain to his advantage. Beautifully done. I want to talk about the position right here, right? So the Weaver's Wall is down, and now you're threatening, hey, all right, we're going to turn this down, but look how the positioning has changed. Normally, you're supposed to have sentry and then 2 flankers, right? People that don't want to get all caught up in the same AoE, but with threat. They constantly want to be able to provide threat. And in this case, we're talking about Poppy and Nautilus to help support the sentry Ornn. Ornn gives up his position to go break this wall, all right? They're clearly afraid of something, but now what happens? As you look to try to take new position, if people try to go through here, this equalizer would be devastating. Not just that, but we're also talking about an equalizer like this would be devastating. There's multiple different angles that you can throw into this. Now that Ornn has given up their position, we're talking about multiple people threatening here with no big tank in the way. So this play by Broken Blade gets punished, right? Yes, you can use your E to break a wall, and you can do this going forward, but take a peek at how much they give up. Broken Blade trying to reposition himself all over here. Like, look, this is not your job. Even if you do break this, your job has to be immediately to turn back into the fight and start providing barrier coverage right here. Hans Sama is stuck in a rock and a hard place. Yes, you can let the feathers fly, right, in this little cone, but still, what's being done about these guys? Plus the fact that we have this control ward here, they have another ward here, make sure that there's no vision to stop them. So fantastic positioning here. Broken Blade really just giving it up by going here and drawing this line backwards, allowing everyone to deal threat. Yike is not super tanky on Poppy, right? Like Poppy with jungle economy, it's not like top lane. You're not that tanky. You can be punished. And this Poppy just takes all of this damage in front. There is zero threat to FBI, right? None, absolutely none. So he's able to rip in with Sivir, plus it's splash damage. So we're talking about this sort of travel path for the Q, plus the fact that the ricochets are going all over the place. Palafox is dealing this damage. No one's over here. And Caps isn't dealing any damage back either, right? And this is this is threatening the whole time. And we saw how this ended up playing out. Whereas they continue forward, you see these knockups, Xayah trying to let the feather flies. But now look at these flashes over here. They're trying to step away from all the Palafox damage. This is a beautiful, beautiful formation by NRG, holding over a threat over the wall. Even Dokla not really presenting a target because he's happy to take the Blast Cone too. Like he's happy to just use the Flame Spitter and Blast Cone. Unfortunately, there's no great way to blast cone with your flame spitter facing the right way, right? You'll always be facing away unless you ask Talia to do it for you. You know, throw that auto out so you can face forward. But look at the sources of damage, right? Ornn not accomplishing anything, not blocking any damage. Mickey and Nados and Poppy taking big chunks of damage to start this fight. Mickey actually flashes this wall, but it doesn't do anything because there's a Palafox right there. Like, that's an easy scoop kill. And then over here, boom, flash forward. We're going to continue dealing damage. Now this right here, what are you accomplishing? You go back forward. Finally, you're getting a little bit of a knock-up, but no more threat because your carries are so far back, they can't actually consolidate that kill onto Palafox. Dokla and Pala reposition. FBI is feeling strong enough. And then right here, the fight would be done. And you could say, okay, things are not so bad. We have more HP. We're okay. Despite everything, we're fine. We lost 2, you lost 1, but we're fine. But then Palafox hitting this knock-up and it being just so much damage up to lead that damage into the Azir. Hansama having no tools left because the ult and the flash are on cooldown means that NRG just wipes that fight. Super well played by them. A demonstrable mistake here by Ornn, right? That's something that you can't afford to do. If you're the tank, you have to lean into your strength, and you just like you even canceled your own Abyssal Mask, right? Like, you're getting nothing out of that fight by moving backwards, and breaking that terrain doesn't actually help you. Sometimes the best way out is in. You have to recognize that they have threat along this border and that they're still going to be able to hit you, and you just need to be able to fight your way through it and actually exit this way so you can get away from the threat that is the Rumble and Talia. All right, the Herald is popped. Despite that huge win, we're only talking about a 1.2k lead here for NRG, but they have had prio for dragons. They've got 3 dragons. They will be threatening a soul. If they're them, honestly, one of the scarier things that can happen is for the soul to come online and then have to fight for Elder against this team comp that could have a lot of team fighting potential. But you will have the Hextech, the very best soul in the game to do it. Plus, you have a pretty good team fight composition yourself. So G2 may be looking to definitely looking to trade 1-for-1 here. They want to give up the soul, get the Baron, try to turn that into map pressure, try to kill these 4 turrets, get 3,500 gold into their pockets, and then see if they can play the next team fight with a lead. Otherwise, they're playing into the maw of this Rumble. Now, early Blightning Jewel, only good because you're playing against tank, and specifically this tank item, right? The most, this and Force of Nature being a tremendous amount of magic resist. Hold on. Beautiful Cataclysm jumping up. What we saw, just like in game 1, answering threat with threat. And a flash. God, Contracts is playing out of his mind. The chase is on. Rumble using his W to buffer. Make sure he doesn't get knocked out. Good retaliation here, but now we have a perfect equalizer. Everyone's online with this. Hansama goes up, but he's going to fall down on the embers, meaning that he's going to die. FBI actually flashing forward to secure this kill. This is going to be a Baron for themselves. Dokla waiting, and importantly, right, put yourself up at this 2/3 trigger where you're within 1 spell rotation of getting your overheat. All right, ult being used, scoop in, ult being used, but Cap's taking significant amounts of damage, means that Jarvan uses his EQ into the R. Poppy is not able to stop him once he's unstoppable. Would have liked to see a little bit of peel right there, like I'm talking immediate E, right? While he's flying in the EQ, just try to turn that around, but doesn't have his cursor on it, cannot get that off in time. Means that Jarvan is able to take out the carry. Multiple ults being down means the team calls a forward play. A good recognition by NRG. Punishing the cooldowns being unavailable. All right, standing gold. G2's going to find some for themselves. They're probably going to try to shop, especially if we have Nashor's Tooth ready to go. Taking stock of some of the items, though. We're looking at 2-item spike here for Talia, 2 items here, 2 items here, 2 full items here. Everybody on the team. We've got basically the full suite of items at 22 minutes. Mostly answered, right? We're talking about across the same thing, nine items on both sides. So even though you have a gold lead, you can't really claim that you have any advantage based on this gold lead. Even though it's 11-4, this is a little bit of a source of advantage for sure. But it won't be enough to say like, hey, we definitely conclusively need to win a fight. We still need to be careful. We need to dot our I's, cross our T's. All right, early control ward, trying to hold this vision down. Nautilus is going to go for a play. Ignar poking it and dashing away. Good job. They're going to give themselves a little bit of vision. I want to see control wards dropped as fights break out. The fact that they're able to get this one down and turn it into a zombie ward without losing anything is a pretty big deal. We'll see who picks up the other half of the blue ward, of the blue buff here. Normally we see a fight for mid lane prio. Sivir should always win that. Xayah is, totally competent. She can just rip through the wave as well. Sivir can do it a little bit faster. Opts to do it second here to present no threat. Now we see line of scrimmage being drawn. If G2 opts for the same position, you have to wonder what are they going to do about what's happening up here. Last time they lost based on just Dokla and Taliyah positioning. So they must have some sort of exploit. Here's answer number one, which is I'm going to gain control. I have this control ward down now. This means this bush is ours. Unfortunately, you really want it to be right on this edge so they don't get the upfront vision. Here we go. Equalizer is down. We're burning through. Mickey's going to be the first one. Azir gets a really big knockup. Poppy's trying to follow it up, but the damage total is too thick to start. Sivir, however, does bite the dust. So we lose a lot of damage. It means G2 is happy to go take that, but the soul is in possession of NRG. That's not a great situation for NRG, right? You have an extra death here, 2 people down versus 1. Luckily for you, it's the strongest member on the team, right? Azir at this stage is your carry, right? Xayah is a disengage. She can play very comfortably. She's going to deal massive amounts of damage, but it's not comparable to what Azir does. So with Azir dead, they probably will not feel comfortable going for the Baron. That means after the resets come online, we're going to be talking about we're not going to even get these resets. Palafox playing to the edge, counting every single spell that's available, and realizing that you can flash forward to go get extra poke, buying extra time, saying, hey, if you guys come back to me, then that means that Rumble is going to be dealing maximum damage. Are we going to get a... Ooh, E misses. Perhaps, are you going to try this? All right, there's nothing extra on the other side. I'm very surprised that NRG had the fortitude to go for that. They end up scooping. They move the play over to the tri-bush. Ignar, however, going to take a significant chunk of damage. Dokla trying to cover, but it was all a ruse this to get the Baron in play. Dokla just ripping the Azir apart. Gets the burn stack and then moves on out. Good use of vision right there. You see how people are using their roles. Rakan, inconsequential damage when you're talking about dealing it to the Baron. Goes over and slaps it with a Q. Comes back with the heal. Let's hold on and look at the fight. Equalizer. You see these X's in the fight, creating different slants. 2 different lines of scrimmage here. Good job by G2 staying together. However, they don't have Broken Blade. Moves a little bit too far over to the left. Means that we have some upfront damage. But it's Dokla and Ignar, so they can't really do anything to combine there. But this is where I truly marvel at what happened next. Mickey missing the Q puts himself in a predictable spot, meaning Rumble can go in for all the damage. Palafox saying, I am super healthy right now. I dodged spell number 1. I'm going to flash forward. Good dodges, and they think they can get some amount of chunk damage back, but he is so healthy, and there's not enough damage available, especially in light of the Seraphs, right? Means that he is super comfortable, baits out the rest of the fight. They clean up, which means that they get the Baron for themselves. Palafox, wonderful, wonderful recognition of strength there. All right, suddenly 6.5k gold lead. All right, we're talking about Baron buff in tow. Rumble going to start positioning in between these 2 pushes, so we're going to get push number 1, push number 2. We have Hex map as well, so the defense can be a little bit more explosive. Look at all these wards here. This is something that, in part we're talking about zombie wards as well, but control wards, zombie wards, what we saw from Loud and what potentially made them such a dominant force in their own region was that they were keeping extra trinket wards and saving it for this position. When you're going for this push, you don't need farsight alteration. They're actually swapping back to trinket wards and saying, hey, we actually just want to litter this area so that there is no counterplay, so that we will see you at any junction if you try to move and make a play on our champions. All right, here we go. G2 is going to take their swing. Unfortunately, you get a disengage over here, which means that the new line of scrimmages can be drawn up. FBI is dealing massive damage here on the side. Is he going to go untouched and continue to deal it? Yes, he is. The flanking Sivir coming back, using Ghost to reposition after the Poppy. Is NRG actually going to take out G2, guys? This is considered a massive, massive upset. Flashing to try to reposition, but it's too little, too late. NRG is too strong. They go in and Murica. NRG taking it down. This is incredible that they're able to take out G2. And really, they did it without ever looking back. They were never at a deficit in the series. Congratulations to NRG. You guys look super strong. I love how they're playing their team fights. And realistically, this is some of the best team fighting we've seen from NA teams, period. Right? They're generally just, they lose their position. And what NRG really did well is they positioned well, they threatened well from different angles. They're making sure to come in, kind of draw an X with the Talia and the Rumble to make sure that you're really deciding as a team, do we go left, do we go right? There's a couple different directions, multiple things are on our screen. Either way we go, we're being split up. And we saw in one case, it meant that Ornn repositioned himself, got himself into trouble by breaking that wall. The whole team got into trouble because of it. And the second time, was much more even, right? They fought back into the teeth of it, but it's still even. And then Palafox was super, super strong on Talia, recognizing the HP lead that he had, the fact that he had the Seraph's shield still available, and playing for his strength meant that he kept on going. Super, super good game by NRG.